So we know that electric cargo bikes like this are amazing at hauling cargo, obviously. They're the minivans of the bike world. But how are they as just being regular bikes? That's what today's video is about. Hey everyone, I'm Tom and this is Shifter, a channel about urban cycling, bike commuting, and the ways we get around our cities. And if you like videos like this, please consider subscribing. So recently I did a video about electric cargo bikes becoming the minivan of your life. And I did that video with this amazing machine, the Mueller Load 75. And in that video, I proved that, yeah, you can absolutely replace an automobile in your life with this vehicle. But what I didn't really have a chance to do was see how this bike functions just as a regular bike. Most of us don't have a budget for multiple bikes for every occasion. So if you're going to invest in a cargo bike, I thought it'd be worth time to see if you can just use this bike as a regular bike doing regular bikey things. And so today I'm going to use the Mueller to try out 10 things you would do in your everyday bike life. And I have a special guest joining, so stick around to see that at the end. All right, let's get started. Okay, challenge number one, a long commute. When I'm commuting, I'm looking for a bike that's light and nimble and fast and efficient and gets me to work as painlessly as possible. And so a big heavy bike like this has me a little skeptical about a long commute. So I'm gonna go on about a 20-kilometer ride here, sort of simulating a long commute, and I'll report back. Okay, so I just went for a big ride, and over the last week or so, I've ridden a couple of 100 kilometers on this bike. So I feel pretty confident in giving you some advice on how an electric cargo bike can function as a commuter. And in a nutshell, it works. I mean, yeah, it's big and it's heavy and a little hard to maneuver when you're walking it or parking it. But when you're riding it, this bike is so smooth that you barely even notice its size or its weight. It just rides really well, better than a lot of regular bikes I've ridden. This is not a bike review per se, but I am really loving this bike. I don't ride a lot of e-bikes, so I still feel that sort of delight every time I hit the pedals and the power assist kicks in. And I know all of you e-bike riders out there know what I'm talking about, but it just helps eat up the miles. I mean, the pedal assist on this bike sort of takes me up to about 30 kilometers an hour pretty quickly. So I feel like I'm always riding at 30 kilometers an hour, which is a pretty good clip for a commute. So conquering a long commute on this bike would be no problem. If you're thinking about buying a cargo bike as your sort of daily ride, you might want to upgrade to that electric pedal assist because it will help out with the extra distance. I think when we're in the market for a cargo bike, we're often thinking about carrying capacity or how many kids we can fit in the front. But if you're going to use it as a commuter, make sure you think about those other things that you would think about on a regular bike. So is it comfortable? Is it efficient? Does it feel good to ride? Can you get around on it? So with this bike, absolutely, emphatically, yes, I'm really enjoying riding it even when there's no cargo in it. So as a commuter, I would say it passed this test. Okay, the next challenge is taking this bike for a pleasure ride. We're gonna hit some of the pathways. Calgary is amazing for its pathway system, so I'm excited about this. Let's see if this bike will function as a pleasure ride. Wow, this is nice. This is one of my favorite paths in the city. It's a little dose of nature. I just saw a beaver, but I missed getting video of it, so I guess I will fail to comply with my Canadian content requirements this time around. So the question is, can you enjoy a pleasure ride on this bike? Absolutely. All those things I said about it as a great commuter apply here as well. It's just a nice, easy ride. It's got a nice, upright, comfortable posture. So I love it. Bonus, you can carry lots of stuff, so it's easy to have a picnic. All right, let's move on to the next challenge, which is riding the total opposite of this, which is a busy road. So unless you're among the lucky few who lives in a city or a neighborhood that's super bike friendly and has safe, separated bike infrastructure, you're probably going to ride in traffic. And so my next challenge today is riding in traffic. And to be honest, I'm a little nervous. I have not taken this bike into traffic yet. I have a moderately busy, like, collector style road here. And so I'm just gonna keep the camera going and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I don't get clipped or get run over, but we'll see. One thing I noticed right off the bat is like the extra size of this bike is kind of a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing in that you take up more road space, but in some ways that's a good thing because I feel more comfortable like claiming my space on the road, taking the lane, as they say. Often with a little fast bike, people tend to sort of dip in and out of the parked cars, which I think is dangerous. I think a safer way to do that is to assert your place on the road, and then drivers will see you and they'll give you space, hopefully. And that actually is pretty easy with this bike. Yeah, I'm maxed out here at about 30 kilometers an hour, and this is a 60 kilometer per hour road. Oh my God. Okay, this is another argument for bike infrastructure. Can you see that poor guy in the wheelchair riding in the shoulder of the road? Come on, society, can't we do better for people like that? Now I'm literally taking the lane here, which I know is difficult for lots of people. You have to have a certain amount of confidence to do this as a cyclist. But on this bike, it feels a bit easier because it's so big. Well, there we go. One point of note here. You see this kid riding his bike on the sidewalk? It's legal for kids to ride a bike on sidewalks here, but not adults. But why is he riding it? Because he's not riding on a busy road because he's probably scared and his mom won't let him because she's smart. Okay, my assessment of this bike in traffic. So it's pretty good. I mean, is it safe riding in traffic? Is it any safer than a regular bike? No, I mean, there is a risk of it giving you a false sense of security because it's so big and heavy. It feels different, but I'm not sure it does. If a car is going to hit you, then this bike will not hold up. No bike will. I mean, the pedal assist certainly helps. Having a bit more speed and pickup on a busy road makes a difference. And look at these guys riding on the sidewalk. Why? Because there's no safe place on the road. This is more digressions than usual. Okay, overall, how is it in traffic? This bike, it's fine. It's not magic. It's the same as a regular bike. I'd still rather be on a bike lane, but it's fine. This seems like a good time to thank Reese and Mueller. Not only did they provide this amazing electric cargo bike for me to try out, but they're sponsoring e-bike month here on Shifter, so we have a whole month of electric bike content. Thanks to them. Their support is really important. It helps keep this channel going, so please support them however you can. Another quick shout out to Power in Motion, the local bike shop here in Calgary that loaned this Reese and Mueller to me. Check them out if you're ever in Calgary. So test number 4 is to take this bike off-road, and my thinking in taking a cargo bike off-road is that, I don't know what it's like where you live, but I live in a mountain bike town, so it seems like whenever people go to buy a bike, in the back of their minds there's like, I want a bike that I ride in the city, but I might take it off-road sometimes. I would say most of them never do, but I digress. I think that's a consideration for lots of people, and also lots of you live in cities with terrible paving, so it may feel like it's going off-road sometimes. So I thought I would take it down this trail and test its off-road capabilities. I don't know how this is going to go. It's 60-40 that my camera goes flying off the bike. We'll see how it goes. Let's give it a try. Okay, I survived. Okay. That wasn't that harrowing. That was certainly not a Lone Ranger video that I'm making here. Oh man! It was an off-road trail and the bike handled it really well. I guess my takeaway from that is if you're going to buy a cargo bike to go off-road, make sure it's got great suspension, make sure the brakes work. There's lots of extra weight here, so you need really good brakes to keep that thing under control. And actually my most pressing thought was don't destroy this expensive bike. So I don't know, there's some, take what you will from that off-road experience, but I guess it is doable, but maybe not advisable. So the next challenge is a social one. One of the best parts of riding a bike, of course, is the social element, going to do fun things with friends, and the best thing to do with friends on a bike is go for an ice cream ride. Plus, I just wanted ice cream, so here we go. Well, I'm happy to report that an electric cargo bike will not hinder your enjoyment of an ice cream ride. And now that I've made this wonderful contribution to society, on to the next challenge. Ooh, sometimes I really have to sacrifice to make these videos for all of you. Yes, I just tested a cargo bike on a pub ride, which may seem frivolous, and it probably is, But it is important, I think, for a bike to be able to facilitate these everyday things like going for ice cream and going to a pub. And I can happily report that it was great. No problem. Added bonus, if you are burdened with being the responsible one and your friend is not, you can always throw them into the bucket of your back feet and ride them home safely. Now, one of the reasons this worked is because there was good parking here, but there is not always parking, which is why. So one of the hardest parts, maybe the biggest downside I've found of this bike so far, is this, parking. On the streets, it's particularly tough if you're in a place where the bike racks aren't great. Bike parking is a problem in many cities, including this one sometimes. And this bike is big and difficult to maneuver sometimes. It's heavy. Getting it just in the right spot is tough. You have to find the exact right spot. So that's a difficult part of it. And the other part is making sure it's safe. This bike is really expensive, so every time I've left it, I've been really worried about it the whole time. I actually have 3 locks on this. As much as I love this bike so far, this is the biggest challenge, so it's something to keep in mind if you're considering using this for your everyday bike life. The other consideration about safety and security is, where do you store this bike at home? And if you have a big garage and lots of space, no worries. But if you don't, it can be something you need to put a lot of thought into. People get creative. They use their underground car parking spot to store it. I've heard of some people storing it on the street, locking it up, putting a motorcycle cover over it, sort of out of sight, out of mind. But it is big. It takes a lot of space. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about making this part of your bike life. The last bit about bike parking leads me to the next question, which is the ease and convenience of making this part of your life. I think this is often overlooked, but one way to make the bike a bigger part of your life is that it's accessible and ready to go for you when you need it. If you have to haul your bike down a bunch of stairs or take it down from the rafters every time you have to use it, it makes it tough to just jump on a bike and go and use it as your main form of transportation. While I'm here, pedestrian overpasses on bikes like this kind of suck. Underpasses, great. One of the challenges that I've had with this bike is that ease and convenience. It's so big and heavy and large and big are the same thing, that it's not that convenient to sort of get it out and go for everyday rides, or just to run off to do quick errands to the grocery store, or to pick up some eggs. With a regular bike, I do that all the time. It's just ready to go. I just jump it, grab it, and go. This bike, it's a bit harder to do that because of its size. So it's something to think about. It doesn't mean it's not a good bike, and you can certainly make it work. It's just I haven't quite found my sweet spot yet. And if you're thinking of using this as your everyday bike, that's something you need to consider. Okay, challenge number 9 is fitness. Hey, did you know that some people don't use a bike just for transportation and getting around the city? They actually use it for fitness too? Yeah, it's actually a sport as well. I don't know if you knew this. And so I'm happy to report that you can absolutely use a cargo bike for fitness. And there's a few ways of thinking about this. One is that because cargo bikes are heavier and bigger than normal bikes, it's a great workout. Pushing that extra weight around will definitely get your sweat on. It'll give you those thighs that you're looking for, and will give you a good cardio workout as well. But since a lot of cargo bikes these days are electric, and I would recommend if you're getting one, you probably want the electric one, there's a few ways of thinking about fitness and pedal assist bikes, cargo or not. Here's a couple of interesting studies I found recently. One found that on the lowest level of pedal assist, most e-bikes gave you what they classified as a moderate workout anyway. So it got your respiration and your heart rate up to the point where it was considered a workout. So it's not completely lost on you. And if you're one of those people who doesn't ride a bike regularly now or doesn't commute on a bike, even that moderate exercise from a pedal assist motor is going to be a benefit to your life. You're going to have a healthier life anyway. Another way of thinking about this is another study that found that people who own pedal assist e-bikes overall actually got about almost the same amount of exercise as those who ride regular bikes. And the reason for that was that those with electric bikes tended to go for longer distances, and they used it more often, which I find interesting. I think probably it's a bit psychological. It's like when you have an electric bike, it's just a bit easier to get out there and go. You don't think so much about, oh, I've got that big hill to climb on my way home. You don't sort of second guess your decision to take a bike. You just get out there and go, and it's easier to go for longer distances. So cumulatively it adds up, and you get about the same amount of fitness anyway. And the conclusion, yeah, if you want to work out, you will get it. Okay, on to the 10th and final and most important question. Does an electric cargo bike make your life better? And to answer that question, I'm going to bring in a real expert.
Hi, my name is Maddy Novich, and I am also known as Cargo Bike Mama on Instagram. And I have 3 cargo bikes, and live in New York City, and I'm a full-time working mom of 3.
She has some great insights to share, and so I asked her this question, and here's what she had to say.
It's hard for me to articulate. It literally has transformed my life for the better. My most important attribute of having a cargo bike is the ability to have more ownership and claim over my time. The efficiency, the freedom, and the time that I'm recouping from not having to be subjected to timetables or traffic or anything like that is so profound to me that I can't even articulate how meaningful that is. So I love the reclaimed time that I get to spend with my family. I also love that it has made going from place to place really fun. And I think that's something that I hadn't thought about before. It just was like, okay, you're commuting and that's just what you have to deal with. And it's not going to be pleasant. You're going to be stuck into a subway. You're going to be waiting for a bus standing outside. But a cargo bike actually makes that whole experience a family experience that is enjoyable. I love that it reduces our carbon footprint, right? I'm very, very concerned about global warming. I'm very concerned about what the world is going to look like for my children and my children's children. And I feel like cargo bikes are a step in the right direction of away from a car culture and away from our reliance on these huge SUVs. There's so much I love about cargo biking.
And ultimately, back to the original question of this video, can an electric cargo bike function just as a regular everyday bike?
I love the focus of this discussion because, at least in like American culture, we don't even question the idea of getting in our SUVs and driving to get our nails done, or driving to get like a single gallon of milk, or which would arguably be too much car. It's the same kind of idea that is a cargo bike too much bike for an individual ride? And the answer is no, right? Because we use it. It is our mode of transportation. You can have one, you can have multiple ones, of course, but it's never too much. And what I find so liberating actually about taking a cargo bike and say I'm going to get a massage or going to get my nails done or I'll meet up with my girlfriends for dinner or just to take a pleasure ride around Central Park is the cargo bike actually allows me the ability to make impulse decisions of if I'm going to stop somewhere or if I'm going to do something else on top of what I'm already doing. And so I find the cargo bike one is never too much bike. It's just a means of transportation. It doesn't really matter whether it's carrying cargo or just me. What it does do is it elevates that individual experience by broadening the ability to do something else.
So big thanks to Maddy for sharing her insight into this. I agree with all the things she said. I knew when I got this bike that it would be practical. It's built for hauling. It's a cargo bike. What I wasn't prepared for was how much fun it would be and how easy and pleasurable it is to ride every day. Not every cargo bike is going to be as good as this one, and I understand that, but I think there are bits from this that you can apply to any cargo bike you might be looking at. Can an electric cargo bike function just as a regular everyday bike? And I think the answer to that is yes, you can absolutely make it work. There's a couple of things to consider, which I mentioned earlier about storage and parking and security and that kind of thing. But if you can figure out a way around that, I think this is a great option. And if you're considering a bike like this, I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.